The morning sun cast long shadows through the Montana forest as Jin-Ho Park adjusted his backpack straps. At 32 years old, he had spent the last 5 years as a wilderness guide, preferring the company of trees and wildlife to the chaos of city life. His dark hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and his weathered jacket bore the patches of someone who lived more outdoors than in. This morning started like any other, checking trail cameras and recording wildlife patterns for the local conservation office. Jin-Ho loved these solitary missions, walking through the morning mist with only the sound of birds and rustling leaves for company. He had just finished noting a pair of elk tracks when the sky changed. At first it was just a faint rumble, like distant thunder, but something felt wrong. The air seemed to vibrate, and the birds suddenly went silent. Jin-Ho looked up, shielding his eyes against the sun, and his mouth fell open. A streak of fire cut across the blue morning sky, trailing smoke and debris. Whatever it was massive, and it was falling fast. The object crashed through the forest canopy about half a mile away with a deafening boom that shook the ground. Jin-Ho grabbed his radio, but all he got was static. His phone showed no signal either. Years of wilderness training told him to call it in and wait for authorities, but something deep inside urged him forward. As he approached the crash site, the air grew warmer and a strange metallic smell filled his nostrils. Through gaps in the trees, he could see scattered pieces of what looked like polished silver metal, but it seemed to shimmer and shift colors in the sunlight. These weren't parts from any aircraft he'd ever seen. Jin-Ho moved carefully, testing each step on the unstable ground. The crash had carved a deep gouge through the forest, leaving a trail of broken trees and scorched earth. At the center lay something that made him question everything he knew about reality. A spacecraft, clearly not of Earth origin. Its design was elegant and organic, like a massive silver seashell, though now badly damaged from the impact. A section of the hull had split open, revealing a glimpse of the interior. Strange lights pulsed weakly inside, and wisps of what looked like blue smoke drifted out. Jin-Ho heard a sound, soft but distinct, coming from inside. It sounded like breathing. Fighting against his instinct to run, Jin-Ho climbed carefully over the twisted metal. The interior was surprisingly intact, filled with curved surfaces and panels that seemed to glow from within. That's when he saw her. She was humanoid, but clearly alien. Her skin had a silvery sheen that seemed to ripple in the light, and her hair was pure white with strands that appeared to float as if underwater. But what struck him most were her eyes. They were like opals, shifting through colors as they focused on him. She was trapped under a fallen panel, obviously injured, with a strange blue fluid seeping from a wound in her side. When their eyes met, Jin-Ho felt something he couldn't explain. A connection, a spark of recognition despite their obvious differences. She spoke, her voice musical but weak, in a language he couldn't understand. However, the universal language of pain and fear needed no translation. "I'm going to help you," he said softly, knowing she wouldn't understand the words but hoping she'd understand his intent. "I won't hurt you." The alien woman watched him carefully as he assessed the situation. The panel pinning her down was heavy, but he could see it wasn't crushing her, just trapping her. With careful movements, Jin-Ho found leverage points and slowly lifted the panel. She pulled herself free, wincing in pain. She said something again, touching her chest. "Hannah," she repeated several times, and Jin-Ho realized she was telling him her name. "Hannah," he echoed, then touched his own chest. Jin-Ho. Her skin was warm and smooth, almost like silk, and that simple touch sent a strange tingling sensation up his arm. As he helped her to her feet, Jin-Ho realized that everything he knew about the world had just changed. Here he was, a simple wilderness guide, holding hands with a being from another world. They needed to move quickly. Already, the sound of the approaching ships was growing louder. Jin-Ho knew these forests better than anyone, and he knew exactly where to take her. His cabin, hidden deep in the wilderness where no one would think to look. As they disappeared into the forest, leaving the smoking wreck behind, Jin-Ho couldn't help but wonder what he was getting himself into. But looking at Hana, injured but trusting him despite everything she must have been taught about humans, he knew he couldn't have done anything else. Some choices transcend species, language, and even worlds. The choice to help someone in need. The beginning of their story started with a crash, but as they made their way through the morning mist, neither of them could have imagined where this path would lead them. Part 2. Trust Building. Jin-Ho's cabin sat nestled between towering pine trees, its wooden walls weathered by years of Montana seasons. It wasn't much, just 2 rooms and a small bathroom, but it was home, and now it would be a sanctuary. He helped Hana up the creaking steps, noticing how she seemed both fascinated and concerned by the simple wooden structure. Inside, he guided her to his old leather couch. The blue fluid, something like blood, he guessed, was still seeping from her side. Under the cabin's warm light, he could see her injury better. The wound seemed to pulse with a soft blue glow, and the edges had a crystalline quality that caught the light strangely. Hana watched his every move with those color-shifting eyes, her body tense. When Jin-Ho reached for his first aid kit, she flinched slightly. He moved slower, making his actions clear and deliberate. Opening the kit, he held up each item before using it. Gauze, antiseptic, bandages. She studied everything with intense curiosity. Communication was their first big challenge. Jin-Ho grabbed his sketchpad and drew simple pictures, a person sleeping, eating, drinking water. Hana caught on quickly, taking the pencil and adding her own drawings. Her artistic skill was remarkable. In just a few strokes, she could create incredibly detailed images. Through their makeshift picture conversation, Jin-Ho learned that her people called themselves something that sounded like a musical note when she said it. He couldn't reproduce the sound, but in her drawings, they looked like taller, more ethereal versions of humans. She drew their cities, floating structures that seemed to grow like crystal gardens in the sky. When Jin-Ho brought her a glass of water, Hana studied it cautiously. She dipped one silvery finger in, and the water seemed to shimmer where she touched it. After a moment's hesitation, she took a small sip. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she quickly drank the rest. Jin-Ho couldn't help but smile. Some reactions were universal, it seemed. Food was trickier. He started with simple things: bread, fruit, rice. Hana approached each new food like a scientist conducting experiments. She would touch it, smell it, and take the tiniest taste before deciding. Rice became an instant favorite, but she made the most amusing face when trying coffee. As the day progressed, Jin-Ho noticed Hana's stance softening. She began exploring the cabin, running her fingers over the wooden walls, picking up books and studying their pages, even though she couldn't read them. She seemed particularly fascinated by his collection of nature photographs. The real breakthrough came when Jin-Ho started treating her wound. He'd been worried about using regular medical supplies on an alien injury, but Hana drew him a picture showing how to clean it. The blue fluid wasn't blood at all, but some kind of energy conductor. Using water and clean cloths, they worked together to dress the wound. During this process, their hands occasionally brushed against each other, and Jin-Ho noticed something strange. Whenever they touched, a tiny spark of static electricity seemed to jump between them, and the air would fill with a faint smell like rain before a storm. Hana noticed it too, and for the first time she smiled, a gentle expression that literally made her skin glow slightly brighter. As evening approached, Jin-Ho prepared a simple dinner. Hana watched him cook with intense interest, especially when he lit the stove. Through more drawings, she explained that her people had moved beyond the need for fire thousands of years ago. Yet there was something in her expression as she watched the flames that looked almost like longing. They sat together at his small kitchen table, sharing a meal of rice, vegetables, and grilled fish. Jin-Ho demonstrated how to use chopsticks, and Hana picked it up with surprising speed. As they ate, she began making sounds that seemed like attempts at English words. Her first successful word was thank, though you proved more challenging. Night fell, and with it came new wonders. Hannah's skin seemed to have a faint phosphorescent quality in the dark, giving off a soft, pearl-like glow. She noticed Jin-Ho's amazement and drew a picture explaining that her people had evolved this trait on their darker homeworld. Before setting up the couch for her to sleep, Jin-Ho showed her how to use basic things around the cabin: the light switches, the bathroom, the blankets. Each simple item seemed to tell her something new about humans. She spent 5 minutes just turning the tap water on and off, fascinated by such a simple mechanical system. As Jin-Ho prepared to retire to his room, Hannah caught his arm. Her touch sent that now familiar spark through his skin. She pointed to herself, then to him, then drew a quick picture of her ship with other ships around it. Her message was clear: others would come looking for her, and she was worried about his safety. Jin-Ho just smiled and drew a simple picture of 2 stick figures standing together, one glowing, his attempt at depicting her, and one normal. He then drew a circle around them both. The meaning was clear: whatever came, they would face it together. That night, as Jin-Ho lay in his bed, listening to the quiet sounds of the forest, he heard something new: a soft, melodious humming coming from the living room. The sound was like nothing on earth, beautiful and alien, yet somehow comforting. In that moment, he realized that trust wasn't just about feeling safe. It was about feeling free to be yourself, even in the strangest of circumstances. Part 3. The Hunters. 3 days of peace had lulled Jin-Ho into a false sense of security. He and Hannah had developed a comfortable routine, communicating better each day through their growing vocabulary of drawings and gestures. But everything changed on that moonless night. Jin-Ho woke to the sound of Hannah's urgent whispers. She had mastered a few crucial English words by now. "Danger," she said, her skin pulsing with agitated light. "They come." Through the cabin windows, they saw them. 3 black ships, their surfaces seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved silently, hovering over the forest like predatory birds. Searchlights swept through the trees, methodical and threatening. Hannah frantically drew a notepad they'd been using to communicate. Her usually elegant drawings were hasty but clear. She showed herself at a computer terminal, discovering files, then being chased. The next image showed a group of official-looking figures taking money from what appeared to be violent criminals. When she pointed to the ships outside, Jin-Ho understood. She was a whistleblower, and these were the people she had exposed. A voice boomed through the night air, speaking in the same musical language as Hannah's, but with a harsh, commanding tone. Hannah's skin paled to an almost white shade as she translated through pictures. The voice belonged to Commander Tai, head of the security forces. They were offering her one chance to surrender. Jin-Ho didn't hesitate. He grabbed his emergency pack, always ready by the door, and took Hannah's hand. Years of guiding had taught him every hidden trail and cave in these woods. They slipped out the back door just as the searchlights focused on his cabin. They ran through the darkness, Jin-Ho leading confidently despite the lack of light. Hannah's. On the Alliance flagship, Commander Jin watched in surprise as his first attack failed to break through. "Impossible," he muttered. "They couldn't have developed shield technology so quickly." Lieutenant Park's small patrol ship, Guardian, faced 3 alien vessels. His crew worked with practiced speed, using the tactics they'd developed during the quarantine. When an alien blast hit their engine section, Park ignored the burns on his arms and kept fighting. "Sir, you need medical attention," his medic insisted. Later, Park said, blood dripping from a head wound. "We have a job to do." The Alliance ship's sensors recorded everything. They watched in horror as human crews continued fighting despite injuries that should have been fatal. Their medical databases couldn't explain how these creatures kept functioning through such damage. Admiral Kim's voice came through all Earth frequencies. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." Humanity has never backed down from a challenge, and we won't start now. The battle spread across Earth's orbit. Human ships, though outnumbered, fought with unexpected skill. They had studied Alliance tactics during the blockade and learned to counter them. When their ships were damaged, crews made repairs faster than Alliance analysts thought possible. Lieutenant Park's ship took another hit. Half his bridge crew had injuries, but they refused to abandon their posts. Park himself had 3 broken ribs and severe burns, but he kept commanding. "How are they still fighting?" An Alliance officer asked Commander Jin. "Our scans show fatal damage to multiple human vessels, but they won't stop." Jin watched in growing concern as human ships, some barely holding together, continued their attack. His carefully planned battle was falling apart because the enemy wouldn't follow the basic rules of warfare, like dying when they were supposed to. On the Thunder, Admiral Kim coordinated Earth's forces. The defense grid was working better than expected, forcing Alliance ships to come closer where Earth's weapons could hit them. "They're not used to enemies who can take damage," Kim told his crew. "Use that against them. Get in close. Make them fight on our terms." Lieutenant Park's ship scored a direct hit on an Alliance vessel. The alien crew abandoned their ship after minimal damage, unable to understand how humans could keep fighting in similar conditions. "Guardian to command," Park reported, coughing blood but keeping his voice steady. "Enemy ship disabled. Moving to next target." The Alliance commanders watched in disbelief as their attack faltered. Human ships, despite horrific damage, kept fighting. Human crews, despite injuries that should have been lethal, stayed at their posts. It defied everything they knew about battlefield logistics. Commander Jin prepared an emergency transmission to the Alliance Council. "The humans show unprecedented survivability," he reported. "They continue fighting with injuries that would kill any civilized species. Their pain tolerance and regenerative abilities exceed all known parameters. This is not a normal enemy." Admiral Kim saw the Alliance fleet's formation breaking. Their careful battle plans assumed the humans would behave like a normal species. They weren't prepared for an enemy that refused to follow biological logic. Lieutenant Park's ship was barely functioning now. Hull breaches on 3 decks, critical systems failing, and most of his crew injured. But they had disabled 4 Alliance vessels. "Sir," his medical officer pleaded, "at least let me set that broken arm." Park looked down, seeming to notice his twisted left arm for the first time. "After the battle," he said, "we're not done yet." The Alliance fleet began to retreat. Their sensors were overwhelmed with data about human resilience that contradicted all known science. Commander Jin watched in shock as human ships, by all logic too damaged to fly, chased his retreating vessels. "Full retreat," Jin ordered. "We need to completely reassess our strategy. These humans, they're not natural." Admiral Kim allowed himself a small smile as the Alliance ships fled. Earth's first space battle had ended in victory, not because they had better technology, but because humans simply refused to quit. In the battle's aftermath, Alliance medical observers studied the human casualties with growing shock. Injuries their species considered fatal were being treated as routine. Lieutenant Park finally allowed himself to be taken to Medical Bay, where doctors treated injuries that should have killed him hours ago. "How many did we lose?" Kim asked quietly. "Fewer than expected," his executive officer replied. "It seems humans are hard to kill, even in space." Commander Jin's report to the Alliance Council was grim. "Standard tactics are useless against humans," he wrote. "They ignore injuries that would incapacitate normal beings. They repair battle damage that should be fatal to their ships. They simply refuse to die." On Earth, Dr. Song studied the battle data. "They're afraid of us," she told Minister Lee. "Not because of our weapons or technology, but because we can survive things they can't imagine." The first major battle for Earth's freedom was over. The Alliance had learned a harsh lesson. Humans weren't just another species to be contained. They were something entirely different, a species that treated lethal damage as a temporary inconvenience. Lieutenant Park, his arm in a cast and burns still healing, was back on duty within days. Like all humans, he saw nothing special about his survival. It was just what humans did. The Alliance fleet regrouped far from Earth, but the damage was done. They had tried to break humanity's spirit and instead discovered that humans don't break. They refused to die, refused to surrender, refused to follow the normal rules of biology. The galaxy would never be the same. Here's a 1,200-word expansion of Part 4 in simple, basic English using third-person perspective. Humans refuse to die. Part 4. The Human Factor. Dr. Song stared at her microscope screen in amazement. After weeks of studying tissue samples from injured soldiers who fought in the space battle, she had finally found something remarkable. "Look at this," she called to her team. "Human cells don't just repair themselves. They get stronger after damage." Her laboratory in Singapore had become the center for studying human biology, compared to the alien tissue samples they'd collected from damaged Alliance ships. The differences were striking. Medical Officer Yoon arrived from the military hospital, carrying new data. "You need to see this," she said, placing her tablet on Dr. Song's desk. "We treated 20 soldiers for radiation burns yesterday. All of them are already back on duty." Dr. Song pulled up the medical scans. "These radiation levels, according to the Alliance medical database we captured, this much exposure should be fatal." They worked through the night, comparing human medical records with alien biological data. The results were startling. Injuries that would kill Alliance species were merely inconvenient to humans. Broken bones, burned tissue, even severe infections. Humans survived them all. "Their immune systems are so basic," Dr. Song explained to a group of military leaders. "They depend on technology to fight diseases. But humans, our immune system attacks anything it doesn't recognize. We're basically walking weapon factories." The Alliance discovered this the hard way. General Tai led the first ground assault on Earth, landing troops in what he thought was a carefully sterilized area. His soldiers wore the most advanced environmental suits in the galaxy. It wasn't enough. Within hours, Earth's microscopic life forms found ways through their defenses. Common bacteria, harmless to humans, attacked the alien troops. Their medical technology, designed to fight known diseases, couldn't cope with Earth's aggressive microorganisms. "Retreat," General Tai ordered as his soldiers fell ill. "This entire planet is a biological weapon." Dr. Song studied reports from the failed invasion. "It's not just our immune systems," she told Medical Officer Yoon. "Our entire biology is designed to survive. We heal faster, adapt better, and fight harder than any species they've encountered." Yoon nodded, reviewing patient files. "Yesterday, I treated a construction worker who fell 3 stories. He walked himself to the hospital with 6 broken bones. The aliens can't understand how that's possible." In their ships above Earth, Alliance commanders watched in horror as their ground forces retreated. General Tai's report was disturbing. Even their best protective gear couldn't guard against Earth's aggressive environment. "The humans live in a soup of deadly microorganisms," he reported. "They breathe corrosive gas. Their bodies are filled with acids and bacteria. They're not just tough. They're toxic to normal life." Dr. Song made another discovery that shocked the scientific community. Human stomach acid, she explained to her colleagues, is strong enough to dissolve metal. "We drink water that would poison most alien species. Even our saliva contains enzymes that can break down proteins." Medical Officer Yoon documented case after case that defied alien medical knowledge. A soldier recovering from critical wounds in days instead of months. A child fighting off an infection that would kill an Alliance adult. And elderly humans surviving conditions that should have been fatal. "They're not supervising," she wrote in her report. "This is just normal human biology." The Alliance attempted one more ground assault, this time in full biological containment suits. They landed in the Australian outback, thinking the harsh environment would help them understand human survival techniques. They were wrong. Local residents not only survived in the brutal desert heat but thrived. Alliance troops watched in disbelief as humans worked outside in temperatures that would kill most species. Their containment suits couldn't handle the conditions that humans considered merely uncomfortable. Dr. Song examined the data from the failed invasion. Their bodies can't regulate temperature like ours, she explained. They can't sweat, can't repair DNA damage from sunlight, can't filter toxins from their blood. Everything we take for granted is impossible for them. Medical Officer Yoon treated the few Alliance soldiers captured during the retreat. Their bodies were so fragile compared to humans. A simple cut could lead to death because they had no natural defenses against Earth's bacteria. "How you live like this?" one alien prisoner asked her. "Your world is trying to kill you every moment." "That's exactly why we're strong," Yoon replied simply. "Everything that doesn't kill us really does make us stronger." The Alliance Council received General Te's final report with grave concern. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a planet that had shaped its dominant species into something unprecedented in the galaxy. Dr. Song presented her findings to world leaders. The aliens evolved on safe worlds with predictable environments. But Earth tried to kill us every step of the way. And we adapted. She showed them comparison charts. Our bones are denser, our muscles more efficient, our immune systems more aggressive. We're not just tough. We're the product of millions of years of surviving things that should have killed us. Medical Officer Yoon added her observations. Even our healing process scares them. We don't just recover, we rebuild stronger than before. A broken bone heals harder than it was. A torn muscle repairs itself tougher than original. The Alliance abandoned all plans for ground invasion. Even their most elite troops couldn't survive casual contact with Earth's environment. The humans, whom they had dismissed as primitives, were actually biological superweapons shaped by their deadly world. Dr. Song continued her research, understanding now why the aliens feared humanity. "We're not just another species," she told her team. "We're the ultimate survivors. Everything about us, from our cellular structure to our immune responses, is designed to endure." The Alliance ships maintained their distance, no longer trying to enforce their quarantine through direct contact. They had learned their lesson. Humans weren't just resistant to death. They were built by evolution to spit in death's face. Medical Officer Yoon filed her final report on the alien casualties. Their biology is too simple, too dependent on technology. They never had to evolve the resilience that Earth demanded from us. They never had to refuse to die. The human factor, it turned out, wasn't technology or weapons or strategy. It was simply this. On a planet that constantly tried to kill them, humans had learned to be unkillable. And that terrified the galaxy. Here's a 1,200-word expansion of Part 5 in simple, basic English using third-person perspective. Humans refuse to die. Part 5. Counter-offensive. Colonel Shin checked his suit's oxygen levels one last time as his strike team's ship approached the Alliance outpost near Jupiter. The ship, named Swift Strike, was Earth's first vessel built with reverse-engineered alien technology. "All teams ready," his second-in-command reported. "Engineer Jun's modifications are working perfectly." Jun had done the impossible. She hadn't just copied Alliance technology, she'd improved it. The ship's engines were more efficient, its shields stronger, its systems more resilient. Like the humans who built it, Swift Strike refused to quit. "Begin approach," Shin ordered. "Let's show them what humans can do." The Alliance outpost's sensors didn't detect them. Jun's improvements made their ship nearly invisible. The aliens had grown careless, believing humans couldn't reach this far into space. They were wrong. The raid began perfectly. Shin's team cut through the outpost's outer hull using tools based on Alliance designs, but modified to work better. While the aliens scrambled to respond, the humans were already inside. "Remember," Shin told his team, "we're here for their research data and any technology we can grab. Try not to kill anyone." The Alliance guards were shocked to see humans inside their station. They were even more shocked when the humans kept fighting after the guards vented atmosphere from several sections. Shin's team simply switched to their suit oxygen and continued their mission. Impossible, one Alliance officer shouted over their comm system. No species can function in these conditions. But the humans did more than function. They thrived. The low oxygen and high radiation that would kill Alliance species just made humans work harder. Engineer Jun, monitoring from Swift Strike, watched the team's life signs with pride. Her modified suits were working perfectly, protecting the humans from space while letting them use their natural strength and endurance. "Colonel," she radioed, "you have 30 minutes before their reinforcements arrive." Inside the station, Shin's team moved with practiced speed. They downloaded research data, grabbed important-looking equipment, and took samples of Alliance technology for Jun to study. Some of the Alliance scientists didn't run. Led by researcher Na, a group of them watched the humans with fascination instead of fear. "Your species," Na said, approaching Shin with raised hands. "You're not just surviving here. You're operating at full capacity in conditions that would kill us instantly." Shin noticed Na's genuine interest. "Want to come see what else we can do?" Na looked at his fellow scientists. They had all seen the data about humans, had studied their impossible biology and resilience, had wondered what they could learn from these incredible beings. "Yes," Ned decided. "We want to defect." The raid was already a success, but bringing back Alliance scientists who wanted to help, that was beyond their best hopes. Engineer Jun quickly modified the Swift Strike's life support to accommodate their new allies. The Alliance scientists were amazed by how easily she adapted their technology. "You didn't just copy our designs," Na observed, watching Jun work. "You made them better." Jun smiled behind her helmet. "Humans don't just survive," she said. "We improve. We adapt. We make things better." The Alliance response fleet arrived just as Swift Strike was leaving. They expected an easy victory over primitive human technology. Instead, they found themselves chasing a ship that was faster and more maneuverable than their own. "How?" their commander demanded. "How did they improve our technology so quickly?" Shin's team returned to Earth as heroes. They had proven humans could not only match Alliance technology but surpass it. Engineer Jun immediately began working with the defected scientists, combining human ingenuity with Alliance knowledge. "Your species is remarkable," Na told Earth's leaders. "You treat deadly environments as mere inconveniences. You improve everything you touch. The Alliance isn't containing you because you're dangerous. They're containing you because you're better than them." More Alliance scientists began to defect. They couldn't resist the chance to study and work with humans. Every week brought new discoveries as human and alien minds worked together. Engineer Jun led the research teams, combining Alliance theory with human practicality. "Their technology is elegant," she explained to military leaders, "but fragile. We're making it stronger, more reliable, more like us." Colonel Shin prepared for more raids. Now that they knew humans could operate in conditions Alliance species couldn't survive, they had an advantage. Earth's ships could go places the Alliance wouldn't expect, could fight in environments their enemies couldn't handle. The galaxy thought they were containing a primitive species, Shin told his troops. Instead, they gave us time to learn their weaknesses and improve their technology. The Alliance began to realize their mistake. Their quarantine hadn't contained humanity. It had forced humans to become more resourceful, more innovative, more determined. Researcher No worked tirelessly with his human colleagues. "Your bodies," he told Dr. Song, "are more adaptable than our most advanced machines. And your minds, you don't just use technology, you improve it. Make it stronger, force it to evolve, just like you did." Engineer Jun's improvements to Alliance technology spread through Earth's growing fleet. Ships that could operate in radiation zones, weapons that worked in extreme temperatures, shields that got stronger when hit. "We're not just copying them anymore," Jun said proudly. "We're showing them how technology should work." Colonel Shin prepared for more missions. Each raid brought back new technology, new knowledge, and often new allies. The Alliance's containment strategy was backfiring spectacularly. They thought they were protecting the galaxy from us, Shin told his team. Instead, they're showing us exactly how to beat them. The Alliance Council received alarming reports. Humans weren't just surviving in space, they were mastering it. Their ships appeared in places no normal species could go. Their crews functioned in conditions that should be lethal. And worst of all, more Alliance scientists were beginning to ask dangerous questions. What if humans weren't a threat to the galaxy? What if they were its next step forward? As Engineer Jun and Researcher No worked together, combining the best of both species' knowledge, one thing became clear. The Alliance hadn't contained humanity. They had forced it to evolve faster. Here's a 1,200-word expansion of Part 6 in simple, basic English using third-person perspective. Humans refuse to die. Part 6. The truth emerges. Dr. Moon couldn't believe what she was seeing. The ancient ruins deep beneath the Pacific Ocean had remained hidden for millions of years until Earth's new alien-enhanced sensors had detected them. "This can't be right," she muttered, studying the symbols on the wall. Thanks to the Alliance defectors, they could now read this ancient language. Check the translation again. Her assistant ran the symbols through their computer again. The result was the same. Earth status: Genetic Enhancement Testing Facility. Project status: abandoned. The truth hit her like a physical blow. Earth wasn't just humanity's home. It was a laboratory, and humans were the experiment that refused to end. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Rai received Dr. Moon's report with growing excitement. Since the failed invasion of Earth, he had been questioning everything the Alliance believed about humans. "Look at this," he told his staff, displaying the ancient records. Earth wasn't naturally hostile. It was engineered to be a testing ground. The high gravity, the corrosive atmosphere, the aggressive microbes, all designed to test genetic improvements. The predecessors, as the ancient species called themselves, had vanished millions of years ago, but they had left their greatest experiment running: humanity. Dr. Moon's team found more evidence in ruins around the world. They modified Earth's entire ecosystem, she explained to world leaders, created the most hostile environment that they could imagine. Then they started experimenting with life forms that could survive it. The experiments had continued for thousands of years. Each generation of test subjects was exposed to new challenges, new dangers, new reasons to adapt or die. The predecessors watched and adjusted their genetic code, trying to create the perfect survivor. Then, suddenly, they vanished. But their experiment continued. We weren't abandoned, Dr. Moon realized. We were released, left to evolve on our own in the testing ground they created. Ambassador Rai presented the evidence to the Alliance Council. Humans aren't naturally violent, he argued. They're naturally stubborn, naturally resilient. They had to be, to survive what the predecessors created. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members wanted to destroy Earth immediately, fearing what humanity might become. Others saw the potential benefits of working with these incredible survivors. Think about it, Rai continued. Every hostile thing about Earth was designed to kill. The gravity should crush them. The oxygen should poison them. The bacteria should infect them. But instead of dying, humans adapted. They grew stronger. Dr. Moon found more ruins, more evidence. The predecessors had created thousands of test subjects over the years. Only one line had survived: the ancestors of modern humans. We're not just random survivors, she told her team. We're the winners of a million-year experiment in survival. Everything that makes us different. Our healing, our adaptability, our stubborn refusal to die. It's all by design. The Alliance began to fracture. More scientists defected to Earth, eager to study humanity's potential. Military leaders warned of the dangers of letting such a powerful species expand into space. Politicians argued about whether to maintain the quarantine. Ambassador Rai received death threats from extremist groups who believed humanity would destroy the galaxy. But he also received support from those who saw a greater truth. Humans weren't a threat to civilization. They were its next step forward. Look at their history, he told the council. Yes, they fight wars. Yes, they can be violent. But they also heal, build, create, and improve. They turned a death world into a civilization. They took our technology and made it better. Dr. Moon's discoveries continued. The predecessors hadn't just modified human bodies, they had enhanced human minds. The ability to learn, to adapt, to overcome challenges wasn't just physical. It was mental too. They created us to be problem solvers, she explained. When something tries to kill us, we don't just survive it. We learn from it, improve because of it, grow stronger. The Alliance Council debated for days. Some members stormed out, refusing to consider peace with humans. Others stayed, fascinated by the potential of working with these incredible survivors. Ambassador Rai made his final argument. The predecessors created humans to survive anything, but they gave them something else too. The drive to explore, to learn, to grow. Yes, they can survive in environments that would kill us, but they also write poetry, make music, and dream of stars. Dr. Moon found the final piece of evidence in a ruin beneath the Sahara Desert. The last message from the predecessors, written millions of years ago. Experiment successful. Subject species has achieved full adaptation potential. Recommendation: allow independent development. Final note: they may become greater than we ever imagined. The alliance fractured. Hardliners formed their own coalition, determined to contain or destroy humanity. Moderates, led by Ambassador Rai, argued for cooperation and peace. We can fear them, Rai told his supporters, or we can learn from them. They survived challenges that would destroy most species. Imagine what they could teach us. Dr. Moon presented her findings to Earth's leaders. The truth about humanity's origins didn't diminish their achievements. It explained them. They weren't just random survivors. They were the ultimate success in an experiment to create life that refused to die. The predecessors gave us the potential, she said, but we did the rest ourselves. Every time Earth tried to kill us, we grew stronger. Every challenge made us more resilient. We became exactly what they hoped we would be, and more. The galaxy would never be the same. The truth about humanity's origins changed everything. They weren't just another species. They were living proof that life could adapt to anything, survive anything, overcome anything. Ambassador Rai looked at Earth through his ship's window, seeing it with new eyes, not as a death world, but as a crucible that had forged something remarkable. The question wasn't whether humanity was dangerous. The question was, what would they become next? Dr. Moon stood in the ancient ruins, touching the last message from the predecessors. They had created humanity as an experiment in survival. But humanity had become something more, proof that life, given the chance, would refuse to die. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what these incredible survivors would do next. Here's a 1,200-word finale in simple, basic English, using third-person perspective. Humans refuse to die. Part 7. A New Understanding. Secretary Han stood before the Alliance Council, his posture straight and confident. 5 years of conflict had led to this moment. Ambassador Rai stood beside him, ready to sign the treaty that would change everything. Today, Han began, we stop being enemies. Today, we become partners. The Treaty of New Beginning, as it would be called, recognized Earth as a full member of the galactic community, but it did more than that. It acknowledged humanity's unique abilities as an asset to be shared, not a threat to be contained. Captain Sun watched the ceremony from his new ship, the Lifesaver. The vessel was specially designed for rescue missions in environments too dangerous for other species. His crew, a mix of humans and aliens, represented the future they were building. Distress call from Mining Station 6. His communications officer reported. Radiation leak. Local crews can't get close enough. Perfect job for us. Sun smiled. Set course. Show them what humans do best. The lifesaver arrived to find the station bathed in lethal radiation. Alliance crews could only watch helplessly as human rescue teams entered areas that would kill any other species instantly. Just another day at work, Sun told the grateful station manager later. What kills you just makes us stronger. Across the galaxy, Dr. Song opened the doors to the Joint Species Medical Research Center. The facility combined Alliance medical technology with human biological understanding. Their goal: finding ways to share humanity's gifts with other species. We can't make other species as tough as humans, she explained to visitors, but we can help them become more resilient. Learn from how our bodies handle stress and damage. The center's first breakthrough came when they developed a treatment that helped Alliance species resist radiation better. It wasn't as good as natural human resistance, but it was enough to save lives. Secretary Han and Ambassador Rai worked tirelessly to bring more worlds into the partnership. Where humans once inspired fear, they now brought hope. Their ships could reach places others couldn't. Their bodies could survive conditions others couldn't. Their determination could overcome challenges others couldn't. Look at what we've accomplished in 1 year, Han told the council. Human rescue teams have saved thousands of lives. Our medical research has helped countless species. Our technology improvements have made ships safer and stronger. Captain Sun's crew became legendary for taking on missions others called impossible. When a solar flare trapped colonists on a dying planet, they went in. When a space station fell into a radiation belt, they saved everyone aboard. When a mining accident filled tunnels with toxic gas, they led the rescue. Humans don't believe in impossible, Sun told his crew. We just see problems that need solving. Dr. Song's research center made breakthrough after breakthrough. They discovered ways to improve immune systems, strengthen bones, and speed healing. Each discovery helped other species survive a little better in a dangerous galaxy. We're not just sharing our strength, she told her staff. We're teaching the galaxy not to fear what makes us different. The hardliners who had opposed peace with humanity began to change their minds. They couldn't argue with success. Human peacekeepers stabilized conflict zones. Human doctors saved lives. Human engineers made technology work better. Secretary Han received the Galactic Peace Prize for his work in bringing species together. We didn't just survive Earth's challenges, he said in his acceptance speech. We learned from them. Now we can help others do the same. Captain Sun's lifesaver became the model for a whole fleet of human-led rescue ships. They went anywhere, faced any danger, saved any life they could reach. Other species began to see humanity's stubborn refusal to die as something admirable rather than frightening. Send humans became a common saying in the galaxy. They'll find a way. Dr. Song's research led to new understanding of how life could adapt and survive. The predecessors had created humanity to be the ultimate survivors, but humans had chosen to use that strength to help others survive too. We're not just showing the galaxy how to endure, she said. We're showing them how to thrive. Ambassador Rai, once terrified of humanity, now proudly worked beside them. We feared them because they refused to die, he told the council. Now we celebrate them because they help others live. The galaxy changed. Species that once feared Earth now sent their best minds to study there. The planet's harsh conditions became a training ground where other species could learn to be stronger, more resilient, more determined. Secretary Han watched Earth's night side glitter with lights from a dozen alien species living and working alongside humans. We were never meant to be contained, he said. We were meant to show the galaxy what life can become. Captain Sun stood on his bridge, watching his mixed crew work together seamlessly. Humans didn't just rescue others anymore. They taught them how to be rescuers too. Next mission, he announced. Let's show the galaxy what's possible when we work together. Dr. Song's research center expanded across multiple worlds. Each new discovery helped bridge the gap between humans and other species. Each breakthrough showed that humanity's gifts could be shared. The Treaty of New Beginning lived up to its name. Humanity refused to be just another species in the galaxy. Instead, they became teachers, protectors, and pioneers. Their stubborn refusal to die became an inspiration. The predecessors created us to survive anything, Han told the Council on the treaty's first anniversary. But we chose to do more than survive. We chose to help others survive too. The galaxy learned what the predecessors had discovered millions of years ago. Life, given the chance, would not just endure, it would flourish. Humans had proved it by surviving Earth. Now they proved it by helping others thrive among the stars. Humanity's greatest strength turned out to be not just their refusal to die, but their determination to help others live. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what everyone had hoped for. End of story. Here's a 1,200-word final in simple, basic English using third-person perspective. Humans refuse to die. Part 7. A New Understanding.